Hey guys, I'm Talia Chai and I'm a registered holistic nutritionist, and I'm here today with the Hearty Soul showing you how to make portobello tacos. That means we're gonna use these mushrooms instead of the tortilla that normally comes at the base of your tacos. And the reason why I'm gonna use these is because they're gluten-free, they're a great low-carb option, and they're really delicious. So stay tuned, let's get started. First things first, we're gonna tackle the mushrooms. So I have preheated my oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit, and I have a baking sheet which I've lined with parchment paper. I've already done these two, but I'll show you what I'm doing here. Have you ever washed mushrooms before? Because I'm gonna show you the proper way to do it. You don't wanna submerge them in water, because if you do, they're gonna absorb like a sponge all of the water you're putting them in, and they're gonna get waterlogged and gross. So take a clean paper towel and wet it with a little bit of water so it's damp. And then I'm just gonna brush off any excess dirt or anything that could be sticking to the mushroom. It's okay if they're still a little dirty, but just brushing off anything excess so they don't get waterlogged and they don't get saturated and become flavorless. That's done. Next, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a spoon and see these gills. There are these little gills, they look like fish gills actually, in the mushroom, in this kind of membrane area. Once again, those are gonna make them watery and they're gonna cook differently, and I wanna remove them. So I'm gonna just take a spoon and I'm just gonna scrape out the gills gently, because you wanna keep the mushroom intact, like so. And remove those gills, and we can discard them. We don't need them. What's good about this also is it's gonna make more room in the mushrooms for all the filling of the tacos that we're gonna pile them up with. So once that's clean, you're gonna take it, place it down on your baking sheet like this. And I'll show you with this one too, this clean one. So I'm even gonna go a step further to show you to remove the stem. And you can discard the stem and take the spoon, remove the gills. This is a good one, actually. Some of your portobellos will be better than others, but no need to judge. They'll all taste the same, but this is like nice and big and has a deep crevice in it, so it's a good cup for the tacos. Take that, place it on the baking sheet. Next, get this out of the way. I'm just gonna take some olive oil and I'm going to drizzle it on each mushroom. And then I'm gonna take some gluten-free tamari. So this is organic gluten-free tamari. So once again, if you're a celiac or you're just trying to avoid gluten, be aware of soy sauce, because soy sauce has wheat in it. And tamari is basically a wheat-free version of soy sauce, same flavor. And I'm gonna take my hands and massage the olive oil and the tamari into each mushroom. And the tamari is going to provide a really nice salty flavor to the mushrooms. And it's just amazing how much the mushrooms absorb anything you put on them. Then flip them over like this, and we're gonna do the same thing. Little drizzle of olive oil, and like, we don't need to be perfect about it. This isn't a measurement, it's just enough to coat. That's when you start really feeling like a chef in the kitchen, because you're like, I'm just gonna free for all it and just see how it goes. Little drizzle of tamari. Once again, I'm gonna use my fingers and I'm gonna massage on both sides, because we wanna infuse this mushroom, which is our taco base, with as much flavor as possible on both sides, not just one. And I'm kind of like wiping it down in the bottom to pick up the sauce, and then just using my fingers to massage it. Last one. Okay, so you can see they're really nicely coated. I'm gonna place them gill side down in the baking sheet, and then these are gonna go in the oven for 20 minutes. Check on them, but I'd say like 20 to 25 minutes. All right, in the oven they go. Okay, So while those are cooking, it gives us a chance to make the filling. And I have a cast iron enamel coated pan. Any kind of cast iron is great. I love using it because it's naturally non-stick. This is heating over medium heat. And I'm gonna take some olive oil, drizzle it in the bottom, and I have some thinly sliced red onion, which I'm gonna add. That's the sizzle you wanna hear, by the way. That's going in. And this is gonna make a delicious, meaty flavored taco filling without the meat. This is purely vegetarian and purely vegan actually, so good for most people. We're gonna let these onions cook down and saute. I lowered the heat just a little bit because you just never know. You don't want it to burn. And here I have a gorgeous, gorgeous spice mix of 4 different spices. So I have ground cumin, I have smoked paprika, I have ground chili powder, and then I also have, what's the last one that I have? Chipotle. I have ground chipotle. So the reason why I like using smoked paprika and chipotle is because they're both smoky flavored. Smoked paprika, obviously, is smoked paprika. Chipotle is a spicy chili powder that they've smoked the chilies and then ground it into a paste, so it's gonna add, that's where we're really gonna get the spicy flavor. So know when you're using chipotle, if you don't like spicy, omit it completely. If you do like spicy, play around according to taste. I've used about 1/8 of a teaspoon. I like to add my spices when I'm sauteing my onions in the oil because it gives the spices a chance to bloom in the oil and all of those flavors to really come alive before I add the rest of the ingredients. So I'm gonna cook down the onions with the spices and the olive oil for about 5 to 10 minutes. You'll see they're gonna start to get really soft and they're gonna start to get a little golden brown. That's when you know they're done, but in general, I'd say 5 to 10 minutes is a safe time span, depending on your stovetop. Make sure they're all coated in the spices. And then the easy part is that you just kind of let them sit and do their thing, stirring occasionally. This is a low maintenance meal. Just a little health tidbit about onions. Onions actually fall into the prebiotic category of foods. So the starch and carbohydrate in onions is called a fructooligosaccharide, kind of a fancy name. Basically, prebiotic would be another way of saying that. And the reason why prebiotics are good for us are because prebiotics are the food for probiotics in our body. So in our gut and our large intestine lives most of, like, a huge number of the probiotics in our body. And those probiotics, those healthy bacteria, need food in order to thrive and stay alive. And we want the probiotics in our gut to thrive and stay alive. So what's one way to ensure that they're healthy and thriving is to feed them the food that they love, which are prebiotics. And so onions and garlic, asparagus, Jerusalem artichokes, these all fall into probiotics food. So if you're trying to eat gut-friendly food, or you're trying to focus on ingredients that will support the microflora and the gut in your body and in your intestines, then definitely onions and garlic are a good addition to whatever you're eating. So you'll see now that the onions have taken on kind of a caramelized, golden, soft texture and color, which is perfect. Now I'm going to add a pinch of sea salt. This is gray Celtic sea salt. Use whichever salt you'd like. Some black beans. I used canned black beans for these ones because, let's be honest, it's just way easier. I like using BPA-free canned black beans, or canned any beans for that matter. So the lining of the cans doesn't have BPA. And some organic corn kernels. So these corn kernels were frozen. I bought them frozen, and they were organic because corn's not in season in the winter. But if it's spring or summer, you should be able to find organic corn. But if you can't find organic fresh corn, then definitely check the frozen section because it will most likely be there. And the reason why we definitely want organic corn is because it's not genetically modified, which means that the pesticide levels, the herbicide levels in that corn will be drastically lower, and it will be a much, much healthier food. Whenever I buy things that are very genetically modified, like corn or tofu, soy products, I always recommend going organic. So I'm gonna let this saute and come together. And now at this point, like the beans are already pre-cooked, the corn is already pre-cooked. We're just letting everything heat up and letting all of the flavors of the spices come together. So I'm gonna let this saute for, I'd say, another 5 to 10 minutes. All right, this is done. I've turned off the heat, and I'm just gonna transfer this to the side to cool. That'll just sit there and chill and do its thing. The mushrooms are still going, and you'll see here that I've kind of cleared the decks a little and rearranged to set up for our second dish, or our third dish, which is the pico de gallo. If you've never heard of a pico de gallo before, it's basically a fresh salsa, like a salsa fresca, and what it means is that it's raw. So normally a traditional salsa is cooked and heated up and maybe blended. This is all hand chopped, and it's all raw. Oh, got the burner. I'm gonna unplug this. Perfect. So this is raw, and it's quick, and it's easy. That's what makes it amazing. What's nice is that it's full of fresh flavors as well, which you're gonna see what goes in, but it's super easy. So in this bowl, I have 2 vine-ripe tomatoes that I have diced up. And over here, I have some sliced scallion, thinly sliced green onion, scallion, whatever you wanna call it. And I'm gonna add this to the chopped tomato. Gonna add a little pinch of salt. And then the ingredient that's probably the most important is a fresh lime. So I have a microplane here, and a microplane is just a very, very, very fine grater, essentially. And it's really good if you wanna do zests, or if you wanna grate like nutmeg or really fine things. So I'm just gonna get some zest off of this lime, like so. I love microplanes. They are so essential in the kitchen. I think it's probably my most used kitchen tool, believe it or not. So I have my lime zest here, the zest from one lime going in. Oh yeah. And then I'm gonna take my lime, and I like to roll it down like this to soften everything inside, which makes it easier to get the juice out. And I'm gonna do the juice of, 1/2 to 1 lime on top, depending on what you like or how juicy your limes are. Some limes are really dry. I don't know if you've ever noticed that, but it's just the worst when you get a dry lime, Okay, so this is going on, and the lime juice is gonna give it this beautiful, fresh, acidic flavor. And the acidity of this pico de gallo will go really nicely with the very savory, spicy flavor of the filling. You always wanna balance out your flavors when you're cooking. So this is just gonna be a really nice raw accent to the very cooked taco. And it's just gonna basically burst in your mouth. Okay, so I'm just going to squeeze this in and take my spoon, mix it all together, like so. And then, last but not least, the real flavor element, cilantro. Now, cilantro is a very detoxifying herb and very, very potent. And you're probably thinking right now, ooh, I love cilantro, or oh, I hate cilantro. I find cilantro is very polarizing, and it's a love-hate herb, but it's very appropriate when you're making tacos, and try to learn to love it. because it's really good for you and it just makes everything really delicious. Now, I like to snip herbs with scissors because herbs bruise really easily, and unless you have like a super sharp knife, it's just easier to use some nice sharp scissors and cut it in perfectly, and it keeps them nice and intact and not bruised at all. And it also is just kind of fun, and you kind of feel like you're doing arts and crafts while you're cooking. And just a side note, you can see how I've stored this cilantro here. So I actually have it in this glass jar, but you can use any type of container, and I filled it up with water, and I've put the bunch of cilantro in the water almost like flowers in a vase. And what I'll do is I'll store them like this and put a little thin plastic bag on top and tie it for freshness, and then pop them in the fridge, and that will preserve the life of your herbs like times 3 or 4. So that's a really good trick to keeping your herbs fresh. So I think that's a good amount of cilantro. Get the cilantro in, and now we mix again, and look at all the colors, the reds and the greens, and it's gonna have a lot of punch, and it's gonna be really good on our tacos. Okay, so mixing that up, and then of course, gotta do a little taste. Very good. A little more lime, and a little more salt. When in doubt, a little more salt is the philosophy I like. Okay, done. Pico de gallo, ready to go. Let's take our portobellos out of the oven and put it all together. All right, my portobello mushrooms are ready to go. And now comes the fun part, which is the assembly part. So first off, I have the taco filling right over here in all its glory, and I'm gonna take a 1/4 cup measuring cup, which I've decided is the perfect amount for these tacos, and it's gonna be heaping and overflowing, but that's how we want them to be because these are gonna be filling. So I'm gonna fill up a 1/4 cup measuring cup here. Look at how good that looks, by the way. And I'm just gonna top it right on top of the taco. If a little bit spills out, that's okay. That's how it goes. This is not perfectly clean. It's like, get in there, get dirty a little, you know? Okay, so filling this up, putting that on top. Beautiful. This is rustic and I like it. All right, number 3. Ooh, that one's really small. Your portobello mushrooms will vary in size, so you can adjust accordingly, but this one happens to be really small, so I'm not gonna go crazy. There we go. All right, now that I have the taco filling on the mushrooms, I'm gonna transfer them to the plate and then we're gonna garnish. So I have this plate ready to go with some fancy little lime wedges. Slide this over and transferring. The reason why I'm transferring these now is because if I top them with everything and then try to put them on the plate, it could get really messy. So I'd rather do it on the plate and not have to move them around too much, if you know what I mean. But guys, these look amazing and I hope you're excited. Gorgeous. Okay, tacos on the plate, ready to go. Let's talk about our toppings. We have the pico de gallo, which I just made. And then I just took 1 avocado, mashed it up in a bowl, and added a squeeze of lime juice. A little easy guacamole, if you will. And then, and now vegans, avoid this step. I have some very optional plain Greek yogurt here. And if you're the kind of person who normally likes sour cream and creamy cheesy things on your tacos, and you're good with dairy, you're not avoiding dairy, go ahead and throw a dollop of Greek yogurt on top. If you're avoiding dairy or you're a vegan, avoid that step, it's completely optional. So, pico de gallo, get that on top. And this is gonna fall, but that's okay. And just do a nice little spoonful on each taco, all the herbs, the tomatoes, the zest and the juice of the lime. It's really gonna take the flavor of the taco to an entirely different level. You'll see, it's for real. And look at the color, right? Because there's a lot of brown going on below it. So we want the pop of bright colors. Colorful foods mean healthy foods. Then, of course, the guacamole. You're not gonna wanna skimp on this. Nice dollop of guac. All right. Oh, yes. The creaminess that this is gonna add and the fattiness, which if you're not using dairy from the Greek yogurt, then this would be a great way to add some of that fattiness to what you're eating and lots of flavor. And then this one gets a little bit more, yes. I mean, isn't this looking so good already? Are you getting a bit hungry? Because I actually am. They smell so good. And then for the non-vegans, a little bit of organic. I should specify whenever you're getting dairy, go for organic. Greek yogurt. We're gonna do 2 with the Greek yogurt, 2 without. That's 1. And that's 1. Oh mama. And then I'm gonna take some cilantro leaves, if you wanna get super fancy, and just put them on top, like so. I have my lime wedges on the side, so you can squeeze some lime on each individual one, and these are ready to go. Don't forget to leave a comment below and let us know how you like this recipe, and also please share with anyone in your life who loves delicious food as much as you do. That's all for now. Stay tuned for more recipes in our next episode.